repeatedly called 3 Soviet agencies in charge of nuclear power management and generation, but they denied knowledge of any accident or explosion. The Swedish Minister for the Environment, Birgitta Dahl, declared that the country responsible for the spread of radioactivity was violating international agreements by withholding vital information from the world community. There was no response. Swedish diplomats reached out to their former foreign minister, Hans Blix, now in Vienna, heading the International Atomic Energy Agency. The agency was also in the dark. It was not clear what to expect. Although radiation levels were high, they did not yet pose a direct threat to human life and vegetation. But what if the contamination continued or even increased? And what had happened there, behind the Iron Curtain along the Soviet border? Was it the start of a new world war or a nuclear accident of enormous proportions? One way or another, the world would be involved. It was involved already, but the Soviets remained silent. Part 1. Wormwood. Chapter 1. Congress. It was a big day. Many in Moscow and throughout the Soviet Union believed that it signaled the dawn of a new era. On the cold winter morning of February the 25th, 1986, the temperature during the previous night had fallen to -2 degrees Fahrenheit. Close to 5,000 warmly dressed men and women, including senior Communist Party and state officials, military officers, scientists, directors of the large state companies, and representatives of workers and collective farmers, the toiling masses, descended on Red Square in downtown Moscow, which was decorated with a huge portrait of Vladimir Lenin. They were delegates to the Communist Party Congress, the 27th since the founding of the party by a handful of idealistic social democrats in the late 19th century. Their mission was to chart a new course for the country for the next 5 years. Once they reached the Kremlin, the crowds moved towards the Palace of Congresses, a modern glass and concrete building decorated with white marble plates. It had been erected in 1961 on the site of buildings belonging to the 16th century Tsar, Boris Godunov. The Soviet premier at the time, Nikita Khrushchev, wanted to rival the Great Hall of the People that Mao Zedong had opened in Beijing in 1959. The Chinese palace could seat 10,000 people. The envious Soviets increased the seating capacity of their palace from 4,000 to 6,000 by putting almost half the building underground, where most of the seats of the meeting hall are located. Only the balcony seats with boxes are above ground level. When it came to party congresses, which convened every 5 years, the Soviet leaders imposed a limit of 5,000 participants, no matter how large the membership of the Communist Party became, and it was growing quickly, since filling the hall to capacity would have meant sacrificing the comfort of those in attendance. There was no venue in the Soviet Union, short of sports arenas, that could have seated more. Khrushchev inaugurated the new Palace of Congresses in October 1961, in time for the 22nd Party Congress. The Congress decided to remove the corpse of Joseph Stalin from the mausoleum it then shared with that of Lenin, and it adopted a new program for building a communist society, with its foundations to be in place by the early 1980s. Now, in 1986, the delegates to the 27th Congress had to take stock of what had been accomplished. The record was dismal, to say the least. As the population had increased, the economy had slowed, and the possibility of a complete breakdown was becoming ever more likely. The growth of national income, which Soviet economists had estimated at 10% in the 1950s, had fallen to barely 4% in 1985. The Central Intelligence Agency in the United States had made even grimmer estimates, putting the growth rate at 2 to 3%, and later reducing even that estimate to approximately 1%. With its goals for communism nowhere in sight, the economy in a tailspin, the Chinese launching their economic reforms by introducing market mechanisms, and the Americans rushing ahead not only in economic development, but also in the arms race.